Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Talk of the Titans, live from London, UK, all the way to the US of A and worldwide. I'm your host, Kalam L, and this is Talk with the Titans. Oh, man. Your family tree. Can I get my notification gangs in the building, please? Where you at, family? Where you at? Oh, man. Scholar gang. Gang, gang, gang. Yo, what's good, family? Today, Stefano Bong in the building. Peace to you as well, King. Zubaydah's real husband in the building. What Betty War as well. I'm seeing everybody just coming in. Dionysus Finch. What's good, man? What's good? Oh, man. So what's good, family? You know, today I actually want to do a nice little open show with you guys. Yeah, I would love for you guys to come in if it's possible. I know sometimes the link doesn't work if I just post it in there, but the link is posted. I've literally posted the link for you guys, so let me know what's good. If you lot can see it, let me know. If you can't get in, and I know some of you guys already have been on here before, just message me in another Google Hangouts conversation that we've been in, or message me via the usual means, and I'll get you in on the building. All right, so let's get it. Hoping to see more debates. Says nothingness of nowhere. Yeah, let's get controversial. Says Weinstein Archives. Yeah, Kiss Spence in the building. Yeah, what a topic. So yeah, I'm leaving it quite open, actually. I'm supposed to get my brother Saracen in here as well. He was actually supposed to do a show today where we're gonna do it for another day, actually. So we're gonna come in, we're gonna discuss a few topics. Should be great. Of course, got Gabs the man. He should be passing through as well. There's ex-Muslim brother says, Kalam, I want to debate about your debate with Hashim. Okay. Come in, man. Come in. Message me again via email, I believe. It's an email. I'm sure it's like email. I usually give it to you, right? I think it's email. So message me via email. Come in and you can just discuss whatever you want to discuss. Whether it goes into a debate or not, just come in and discuss. I'm cool with it. I'm actually cool with it. So just pass through. So if you can't get through to me, the other means, email me. And I'm actually going to check my emails right now. So I will send you everything that you need. Oh, man. And shout outs to everybody as well who's been dropping me emails, providing me information for all different types of things. Shout outs to my Shia brothers as well. Like, sorry if I can't get back to everybody. Sorry if I can't get back to everybody. That's all I'm going to say. Sorry if I can't get back to everybody, because you lot send me a lot of messages every single day and it's very difficult to do that. So yeah, let me collect the link for you guys and actually send it out as well. Let's do this. Copy and paste. So let's quickly see. Who wants to ramble? Hey, yo, Answer, I need you up in here as well, you know. I don't know why you're always hiding out. You need to be in the mix. Let me just quickly get the link over to my boy. All right, clipboard. Why is it not just pasting? Uh-oh. All right. Gosh, damn it. Sorry, Gabs, if I haven't got it out to you. Nothingness of nowhere. Raza, the double-edged sword, sharp. Trust me. You know what? Yeah, Raza actually dropped me this video, yeah, for all my other family that's checking in. This one here, the Safia video, Abu Laith. This video here, yeah. The Safia, the Prophet's Jewish wife, in response to baseless allegations, Mufti Abu Laith al-Maliki. So let me just shout out to Bayt al-Ghadir for providing me with this video still. They thought that it would be beneficial, and it was beneficial. It was actually really good. It was really good. This video was kind of in a response to Ali Dawah and Tommy Robinson's interaction. And, you know, I'm glad to see other people talking about things like this, like to say, like, a lot of the time, you know, it's not Islamophobes, yeah? I'm going to put it like this. It's not Islamophobes that make your religion looks bad. It's actually you guys that's making your religion look bad. And I was like, right, is that you're going on, man? Like Mufti Abu Laith al-Maliki. He was dropping some bombs right there, yeah? And of course, he ain't going to get the attack like I would get the attack, all right? Because I'm an outsider, technically. So my man was dropping heat, bruv, yeah, saying, listen, yeah, you lot, how can you even agree to such a thing? How can you even agree to it? Like the whole age of Aisha being 9 years old, like you lot make the religion look bad. What was he dropping again? About Safia actually being married to the Prophet, after her husband, and all of these things were killed, and all these things here. Yeah, he was breaking it down, and I was like, See, I left the topic alone. I smelled fishy from the get-go, yeah. And I was like, when I saw that Ali Dawah video, I was like, I wasn't feeling it. But you know what's gonna happen? If I actually talk about this, yeah, I'm the one who's gonna look bad, yeah. So I said, let me keep my mouth quiet, yeah, and just be quiet about it. It's none of my business. It's none of my business, yeah, like that, yeah. But sorry for you, innit? But Abu Laif, yeah, he went in. He done a massive service, yeah, for Muslims, bruv. You lot should be really applauding these guys here who are actually trying to put you onto the right path. Because otherwise, you lot make your religion, as I tell you before, yeah, you lot literally make your religion, yeah, off the devil. You lot literally say, yep, my prophet was a Pete. I'm not, watch my mouth carefully. Yeah, I am not saying this word. I'm saying this is what you guys are saying when you're admitting to certain things on live TV, yeah, or on videos and stuff like that. So when you lot start saying, yeah, the prophet had sex with a 9-year-old, you're making him out into being a pedophile, and you have no problems with it. You have literally no problems with it. Yep, if the prophet did it, it must be right, rather than actually critiquing the source that you're getting the material from. Like, so shout out to Abu Laif for doing things like that. Shout out to Abu Laif for correcting the wrongs, yeah, because what you make it out like, yep, my man, conquered the people, killed the husband, killed the father, and he had sex with her on the same night. But what does it say? He raped her, bruv. Like, what the hell? What the hell? Listen, let me go into your yard, yeah. Yeah, kill your husband, kill. Let me go into your yard, yeah. Kill you, yeah. Kill your wife's father, yeah. And then me start having sex with her, bruv. And you're gonna tell me that's not rape? Get out of here, man. Get out of here. So Abu Laif, he done an awesome job. I'm not even gonna lie, he done an absolutely awesome job on that. So I'm just gonna quickly talk on that, because that's one video that was actually up on my finger before I actually came in. So that was spectacular still. Shout out to Abu Laif for just breaking stuff down and making your religion look good. Because I'm telling you again, you don't make your religion look like the religion of the devil. Anyways, yeah, today I actually had a very good, interesting conversation with my Hebrew brothers as well. Yeah, my Hebrew brothers, yeah, were dropping some heat. They were bombarding me on the hangouts like, and I was like, what? I miss this, I miss actually interacting with my American Hebrew community, yeah. And I would admit, yeah, to my American Hebrew community, I apologize on the behalf of the Comedics, yeah, that you are exchanging blows with. I'm apologizing on their behalf, yeah, for not actually understanding Comedic philosophy, Comedic culture, Comedic history, and all sorts, and correct academic just how to do things, the correct method, the tep-hesep. They don't know how to do the tep-hesep. So I apologize on your behalf here, because they were dropping some stuff to me and I was like, who said what? They said what? Who? What? No way. Nah. That's not right. And they're like, one thing I meant with Kalam, when he talks, yeah, he always gives the evidence. And they were trying to break some stuff down, like there was some type of infidelity going on. And I was like, fam, listen, this doesn't have to be my subject. Yeah, I can pull up 1-2 books right now to show you what you're talking about is I don't want to say no, let me utilize the word nonsense. Yeah, nonsense. And they had to just say, yeah, I can see that point still. I know. So I actually want to get more of these Hebrew discussions flowing, because hopefully it will change the perception that my Hebrew brothers have with the Comedics, who may not be as well studied or astute as some of the brothers over here in the UK on certain topics. So I really would love to invite my Hebrews on, and we can get these types of conversations flowing, and other people can benefit from it as well. Brother Saracen, what's good, King? What's good?
Yes. Good evening, everyone. What's happening, brother?
Oh man, I'm here, man. I'm just.
Firstly, I'm sorry. I was supposed to do a little show today on apostasy in Islam, and I've broken it down very nicely. But what I want to do is for the audience to follow it. I don't want it to be a one long rant. So I'm going to bring you the sources, and hopefully next week we'll do that live on Titans TV.
Hoo-wee. Apostasy, that's another, that's another big boy conversation, because I think Ali Dawah and who else, Tommy Robinson, was having this conversation about apostasy,
yes.
And things of that nature. So I would really love to hear your perspective on this.
And
so
I might even get my friend Mufti Abu Laif to come.
Oh, is that your brethren as well? Yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh,
basically, last year, I did a little question to Muslims, and I said to them, how can you justify the Prophet, peace be upon him, marrying a 9-year-old? It's in Bukhari. How do you justify? I reached out to all of the Muslim imams, but none of them wanted to liaise with it. None of them wanted a piece of it. The only person that reached out and answered the question, it's on his website. He's done a 2-hour response to Saracen 786, why the Prophet didn't marry a 9-year-old. And he's done the evidences and he's broken it down why she wasn't 9. And he says quite clearly, he goes, before people couldn't read Arabic, yeah? Before there wasn't the internet, all of this stuff, you could just blag it. Muslims would blag it. Oh, no, none of this. And all this. Because now the information's out there. You can't hide anymore. You got to honestly discuss these things and do not make our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam a pedophile because of your loyalty to Bukhari. Because that's what you mans are doing, bro. It's nonsense. You know what I mean? And it's used, and what's worse is it's used to oppress women all over the world, like in Chad and especially in like them developing countries. Little 9-year-olds are the Prophet, peace be upon him, you can marry little 9-year-olds. So it's wrong, bro. And it's wrong. And I come from that point of view. Him, some of the other scholars I follow, we're going to be doing some big things. We're going to be challenging this nonsense, bro. Apostasy and marrying 9-year-olds and, how we treat ex-Muslims and all of this, bro. We're going to be dealing all of this. He's also done one, there's something on my website about, did the Prophet ﷺ go to heaven on a winged horse? So I don't know if that video is still up there on my channel, but he did a really good breakdown of why it wasn't a winged horse, bro. That's the sort of people we need to deal with, Kalam. We don't need those little youths that go roll up to people and have no answers and make us look stupid.
I can't wait to see that, man. I can't wait to see that. And real quickly as well, Callum, send me an email. Please send me an email first, and I will respond to you with the actual link itself. Okay, so just email me and I'll get you on here, and hopefully I can get Zeriab on here as well. Oh, ex must have been proud, by the way, Saracen. That's the brother who's trying to get in right now.
I like ex-Muslim, bro. Boy, I gotta be careful how I say that. I like this particular ex-Muslim, bro. I think he's a very bright. I was saying to you, I was saying, this guy, I call him a kid, bro, because if I was that smart when I was his age, bro, respect for him, bro. I like that way that he researches things. I wish I was as clever as him when I was his age.
Trust me. And the other brother as well, Joe.
Oh, 16, bro.
Oh, shit. Listen, he is going to be like a genius. He is a genius already. He's a genius already. Like, I want him to be like the new imam on the block or something.
We need, but trust me, Muslims need people like Joe around. And like, he's 16, he's a Quran Hafiz, he knows about philosophy, science, bro. He knows, we were talking till like 5 a.m., me, him, Raza, a few other brothers. Like, we were just chatting on the hangouts, after the show. So the guy seriously got big knowledge.
Crazy knowledge, man. And also, family, please, tonight, like Thursdays, what I'm actually intending to do, is get some comedic studies in, okay? I want to do some classroom studies with you, as a family. So what I would love for you guys to start doing, is posting up some topics or questions, that you would like to be educated on comedic philosophy or African philosophy in general, okay? And I'm talking about the different cultures, whether it's, in Igbo land, whether it's in Congo, whether it's in, the Kalenjin, all those different tribes around the world. After seeing Black Panther, we need to just collect all the different practices and cultures, and let's actually discuss it and be proud of being African. Can we do that, family? Can we do that? Yeah, let's be proud of being African. So I definitely want to get you guys in. If you're from all over the world, like, I want you to come in and speak to me about your indigenous culture and your indigenous history. And if you don't know too much, just name drop a few things. And hopefully the rest of us who may know more can come on and actually spark off this conversation and learn some more. I see here Zeriab Jamal is saying, the last word of Freemasonry. He wants to know last word of Freemasonry, talking about Hiram Abiff and so forth. Oh, man. You're going in, G. But yeah, I don't know about that. Jack Demole. Yeah, I see you. I see you. But apart from all of that, Gabs, what's good, family? What's good? I see you just popped in.
What's poppin'? Good, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to just quickly jump onto a subject or topic right now, okay? And this topic is actually about knife crime, okay? Knife crime. I know we got a few ex-Muslim and Proud wants to join as well, so I'm going to get you in here, and we're going to have different discussions all the way through tonight. It's just going to be popping off. It's going to be popping off. So whatever you lot drop in the comments or questions, or if you lot jump on the panel, listen, it's going to sway the conversation left, right, and left, yeah? So let's get it in. My sister Betty, drop the heat, baby, drop the heat.
Yeah, I just wanted to make people aware that there's been some recent stabbings in London. I think that 3 black young boys have been stabbed to death. And I think it's a really important topic to talk about because obviously there's an increase in this, and to talk about solutions and what's causing this recent stabbing. And because I think people avoid talking about it. Back in my day, people had guns when I was a teenager, but obviously the guns have been confiscated. Now people are back to the old-fashioned duel with the knives and stuff like that. So I just thought it was important to talk about it because it's black boys that are getting stabbed.
Definitely. I don't even think we're going to be doing it the service that's needed to actually have. So what I'm going to actually say is we're going to discuss it shortly. But then also, I would like to rearrange a show on this topic, okay? And I would love for us, who's on the panel right now, and whoever else is hearing this live stream, for us to gather up some statistics, yeah, and information regarding knife crime and present it on here on Titans TV, and we can have a discussion on it. We post up some questions, what's the contributing factors to knife crime? Does single parents household, affect, or is that one of the factors? Is the music in the culture one of the factors, etc., etc.? So we can do some questions, maybe spend 30 minutes on each questions, maybe 3 questions, spend about 30 minutes or 20 minutes on each question. And, let everybody just ring in or call in and have their say. Because this sounds like a very massive topic, which is we need to do justice to it. Just talking like this now is not going to do any justice. But I'm actually going to ask you, Gabs, talk to me on it. Talk to me. What do you know? And yeah, man, jump in, please.
What's this regarding the knife crime? The knife crime?
Yeah, knife crime.
Yeah, man. Nah, trust me. I didn't really hear about the recent ones, but yeah, knife crime has definitely been on the up. To be fair, knife crime has been on the up for a while now. Even from when I was in secondary school, the knife crime, boy, it was at a high rate. Me personally, I think it is definitely one of them. Well, one of the major factors for the knife crime and the increase in knife crime with the youngsters, especially with the black generation, the black youngsters, is to do with this music. The music thing is a very, very key thing into this whole knife crime, because a lot of the music that's big now is this UK drill music. And I'm telling you now, if any of you don't get the chance to listen to this UK drill music and hear what they're rapping about, you will understand what I mean. Why, it's played a role in the increase in knife crime, especially with the younger generation. There's so much lyrical content dealing with carrying a knife and stabbing. You'd think it's a war song or something. I don't know. You think these kids are actually preparing to go to Iraq or Afghanistan, or do you know what I mean? So yeah, definitely this would be a big topic to talk about, and I'll definitely be down with that, man. Trust me, 100%.
All right.
Maybe to be fair, maybe actually as well, maybe I could probably even bring in a little guest, like some, one of the youngsters to come on and talk about and share some of their information, get their point of view on it. That would be good.
Yeah, somebody who's actually been involved with knife crime, share their experience, why they carried knives, or if they've been affected by knife crime itself. That would be massive. Still, I would really love to get these real social issues popping on here on Talk with the Titans. It's a platform this platform was literally built for that itself. You know, sometimes we get sidetracked into other conversations, but this is literally one of the foundation pillars it was actually built upon. Other thing as well, like as far as I remember, there's been a lot of cuts on after school clubs, youth centers and things like that. That can also be a contributing factor as well, right? I know you know a little bit of that.
100% it is. And it's funny that you said that, because not too long ago, another good friend of mine, I think you know him, James the barber. You know James Barber Shop in West Croydon. Yeah, he on a youth club project down in Fulton Heath, trying to get that stuff up and going again. And he's been listening to Talk of the Titans, and he was even asking me if we could come down there and have a little chat with them, or they come on and speak about their youth club and stuff. Do you know what I mean? So maybe that might be something that we can arrange as well for the future, and start getting these youngsters on like the panel and stuff, and sharing their views and their point of view. So yeah, definitely the I think the cut down. Yeah, I think the cut down happened from like I say about from 2010, 2012 onwards. There was like a slow increase in cutting down. The after school clubs and youth clubs, and then that was it. The government was just shutting them down as well, man. Local parks and that was getting shut down, like with only a few. So there wasn't really nowhere for the youngsters to hang around. Do you know what I mean?
It was before then, Gabs, bruv.
Before then,
cause I used to work. I worked on a special project for Harrogate Council. What my job was to work with gangs, postcode wars. So that's what I did. That was my job. We worked with gangs from Hackney and gangs from Harrogate. We were trying to get to the bottom of why they're knifing each other, fighting each other. Just if you go into the next man's territory, what we found, there was loads of issues. So definitely music was one, the culture. But what it came down to is, first of all, getting to them young. And a lot of them, they didn't have any expectations. So they just thought, you know what, this is our life. We're from the estate, we're from the hood. And often we found like people from council, you probably know this, Gabs, I think we've had this conversation before, that people from council estates, that, because that's their area, they have to look after their own. So they're defending it. But then it becomes, we're the toughest gang, we're the toughest school, we're the toughest this, that, the other. Then it becomes an ego thing, do you know what I mean? But because they don't have that expectation, they can become lawyers, they can become doctors, they've got a brilliant mind. And that's what I love about your work, Gabs, bro. Despite what our differences, I've always respected you for how you're working with the youth, because you're telling the young mans that you can be something, you've got a great history. And this is why I think, this is what I like. And people are, why are you always on Titan TV or Muslim, bro, this, that. Forget that, bro. It's about helping people in humanity. And if young black people, from my point of view, I'm Asian, yeah? We get told, we get told about our history. We get told that we can be doctors. We get told we've got that family support. We're told all of this stuff, yeah? But if young people are told from certain communities and they're treated in a certain way, like, police discrimination, etc., they come to a point, let's be blunt about this, they don't give a shit. They really don't give a shit. And when you don't give a shit, that's the worst state to be in, because you're happy to go prison, you don't care. All it comes, what the values you hold, the beliefs that you hold are to do with loyalty and respecting your own and not really caring about next thing. And then you at the same time selling them this image of money and glamour and, to be rich, get rich quick, all of that. And people want these things. How are they going to get it? You're not going to get there if you haven't got a job. Do you know what I mean? So these are all real issues, man. I think it's a great topic to discuss.
Definitely. So
can I just add to what Samson said, that, because like you say, you're talking about a job, but can I just make people aware that some of these things start when people are only 12 and 13, so nobody's having a job at that age, to be fair. And when people are talking about the youth club, back in my day, when me and my sister stopped going to the youth club because of the bullies, because of the gangs in the youth club. So I think we need to be made aware that the youth club is not an answer to the solution, because the bullies, now they call them gangs, are actually in the youth club.
You're right. You bet you're right.
But where they're mixing, sometimes they mix as well. What we found was that we found people were mixing in the youth club. So where people they would knife each other on the street. When you're playing in the same football team, when you're playing the same basketball team, when you're playing pool against each other, do you know what I mean? As long as they keep it civil. And then from that, we used to give people jobs. So even if it was a minor little volunteer job, we'd give him a T-shirt. It said Harringay Council Puma on it. We were sponsored by Puma. These kids then had a job, and then they got into youth work themselves, and they were the best at influencing people to get off the streets because now they had hope.
But the youth club that I went to, and I grew up in Huma Moss Side, me and my sister didn't go to the youth club because it wasn't safe to go to the youth club. That's what I'm literally saying. The bullies ran us out of the youth club. I remember a lady coming, knocking down the door, the whole estate, saying, oh, come, trying to get the kids off the street. So come to the youth club, it's safe. Me and my sister only lasted a couple of weeks before we said we need to bounce because there's some crazy ass people.
Who was it, Betty, though? You know, sometimes the workers they have in the youth club, yeah? Like for me, I was all right. I can speak a little bit of the lingo, but I wasn't the best. The best people were, I'm going to be raw on this, were big black people who had been on the street before, who had got into youth work. They're the ones that got through to people, not people like me or some, you know, next person who's gone to university. Do you know what I mean? It's getting the right people who know the culture as well. So who were the people that were looking after the youth club?
They were, to tell you the truth, they were black people because it was a lady that told us to come, but maybe they didn't have enough staff, but they certainly didn't have control of the people in the youth club, you know, the kids in the youth club. The safe place where I went is the library and Girl Guides. That's where the safe places were to go. Because anyone who was into gangbanging, running drugs, and they weren't nowhere near the library. And they weren't going to no brownies, guides, scouts. That wasn't their thing. But the youth club, where they get all this special stuff now, they make music there. And it attracts, there's still people who are in gangs. Or bullies. I don't even call them gangsters. I call them the bullies. Everybody knows what I mean by the bullies. These people who call it, what I found was a lot of them came from broken homes. Daddy wasn't there, only there at the moment of conception, and they were struggling. You know, they were raised by their mothers.
All right, this is what we're gonna do because this is a massive topic, and I don't want to give it this. I don't want to do no disservice to it. So what I'm gonna ask you, Betty, let's get a date. What day should we actually discuss this?
I don't know. Next week. Next week, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm all right.
Tuesday. All right. Tuesday. What time?
9:30. 9:30. That's not black people's time, by the way, for the black people that are watching.
So I'm gonna be ready at 9:30 then. I'm gonna say 9 o'clock, but I'll be ready at 9:30. I'm gonna keep it real with you. All right. So next week, Tuesday, we're gonna discuss knife crime. What I would love for you to do as well, Betty, if you could post me up some questions, like at least 3 questions. I'm gonna actually ask my audience right now. Okay, please, audience members, could you tag Titans TV right now, Titans TV, and post up some questions you would like to actually, or topics you would like to hear discussed on Talk with the Titans, specifically to do with knife crime. Okay, specifically to do with knife crime. Can you do that for us right now? So hopefully next week, Tuesday, 9 o'clock, but 9:30, 9 o'clock, but 9:30. We'll be doing a live show, panel discussion. Gabs is going to be here. Saracen, I'm going to ask you to please to commit to being here as well. Betty's going to be here, and whoever else on the panel. And next week, please come on as well. Hopefully, we can get Raspect or Jedi or the rest of the gang members to actually come in to actually discuss this topic as well. I really would love to give this topic, the service it needs. Okay, so please check it out. Well, let me just quickly see. How can I join the chat? I'm 40-year-old man, lived in care prison and traveled the world, even stayed with a tribe in a rainforest. Moreover, I'm now a Buddhist omnist. My journey will enlighten the masses. Is that my brother, Buddha Bing? Yes, my brother, Buddha Bing. Do me a favor, King. Just quickly email me. Email me right now, and I'll get you in here, okay? So shout out to Buddha Bing, my black Buddha, yeah? holler at me. Just quickly email me right now. I know you've emailed me before. Email me and I'll get you onto the show. All right, cool. Right now, let me quickly open it up here to get a little bit controversial, real controversial. Ex-Muslim and proud. What are you saying, King?
Yo, bro, how are you?
Oh man, I'm great, man. I'm great. I'm good. Talk to me, man. What you wanted to discuss today?
Yeah, I just want to discuss about your recent debate with our Lord and Savior Hashim.
Okay, cool.
I feel like you did a good job, but you didn't do your homework as best as you could have. And Hashim used, do the Jews believe in the Trinity? Well, they don't believe in a Trinity, but they believe in a concept very similar. And I'd like to quote you Dr. Benjamin Summer, who's a Jewish rabbi and scholar, and he holds a PhD in biblical studies. And I don't know whether this will work, but hopefully you'll be able to hear it.
The logical right to object to the Trinity. I'm uncomfortable with my own conclusion here, but as a scholar, actually one of the more radical, the idea of the Trinity
2 seconds.
Again, among
New Testament, but was taught overwhelmingly throughout the Old. Many ancient Jews
again.
I don't know if you can hear this.
Jews who were the founders of Christianity. And we Jews have always tended to sort of make fun of the Trinity. Oh, how can there be three that is one? Really, they're pagans. They're not real monotheists like we Jews are or like the Muslims are. Those Christians are really pagan. But I think that what we're seeing from what I've been saying in the past couple days is that, the idea of the Trinity, that there is this one God who manifests itself in three different ways. That's actually an old ancient Near Eastern idea that can function in a polytheistic context, as it did for the Babylonians and the Canaanites, but it can also function in a monotheistic context, as it does, I think, in the J and the E texts and some of the other texts that we were looking at. In fact, to say that 3 is 1, heck, the Kabbalah is going to go further than that. They say 10 is 1, and actually when you get to Lurianic Kabbalah, and there's the idea that within each of the Sefirot, each of the 10 Sefirot has 10 Sefirot within it, so that we've got 100 different Sefirot, really. We're taking this reasoning much, much farther than the Christians did. So actually, one of the more radical, much to my own surprise, when I was writing this book, and this is not at all what I had intended to do, because in various ways that we could discuss if you're interested, I'm actually rather uncomfortable with my own conclusion here, but as a scholar, I got to call them as I see them. One of the conclusions that I came to my shock, when I finished this book, is that we Jews have no theological objection to the doctrine of the Trinity. I came to the conclusion that we Jews have no theological right to object to the Trinity. Theologically, I think that the model of the Trinity is an old...
So again, this is a notable Jewish rabbi and scholar who admits that the doctrine of a Trinity is not something we Christians have made up, but rather if you read the Old Testament Tanakh, if you read some of the early Jewish material, for example, there in the Jewish Talmud, there's a recorded story between a Jewish rabbi and a Christian. And a Christian asks about Exodus chapter 24, verse 1, where God says, come to us. And then the Christian man asks the Jew, why does he say, come to us? Why does God not say, come to me? And the Jewish rabbi replied, because there are more than one figures in heaven that are all divine. And if you read the works of, for example, Philo of Alexandria, he himself believed that he believed in what's called semi-Arianism, that God created the Logos and his spirit out of him, and they become distinct persons. So he didn't believe in the doctrine of the Trinity, but he believed that God, in one way, split himself into 3 forms, and these 3 forms are distinct in their personality. So Hashim, using this argument, bring me one Jew in one synagogue that says we believe in the doctrine of the Trinity, is a complete red herring. And if you read some of the pre-Christian material, and also what Jewish scholars say, like Dr. Benjamin Summer, who holds a PhD in biblical studies, he finds that the doctrine of the Trinity, the concept of a multi-personal God, is even taught in the Old Testament, and it is revealed, and the doctrine of the Trinity is revealed in the New Testament. And then Hashim says, talks about Deuteronomy 6:4, Shema Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad. The interesting thing is the word Eloheinu is actually in the plural. The suffix on the end, Heinu, is the plural. So a more literal and accurate translation of that verse would be, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our gods, the Lord is one. So this text does not teach Unitarianism, but rather implicitly teaches that God is a multi-personal. So Kalam, I reckon you really need to get up on this information, because I feel like you could have done a hell of a lot better if you did a bit more of your homework, because Hashim is one of those characters. He's very slippy in his debate tactics, and you really need to be on top of your game, especially with him, and make sure you have the correct information. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to open it up. Open it up. Who's here with me? Who's here with me? Who's here? Who's ready to speak next?
Yes, bro.
Go ahead, King.
I've got to get something off my chest, man.
Uh-oh.
Bro, I was watching this debate. I think it was you in it, actually, where that idiot, that old man, the old Wahhabi, they calls him Omar, and he's going there and he's ridiculing black people, and the only thing he says at the end is worshippers. You baboon. And then he was, oh, bro, that's racist. You can't say that. Okay, you baboon worshippers.
You mean the Pakistani guy or wherever he's from?
I think he's Egyptian.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
bro, I was cringing. Like, obviously, I was so angry at that. But what makes me more angry as a Muslim, is the fact that my fellow brothers and sisters who go to the park and laugh, and very few of you challenge this sort of bigotry. Do you know what I mean? I'm not in London all the time, so that's the reason I'm not always in Speaker's Corner. But if I'm there, bro, I'm calling that idiot out, bro. Because whether it's against you guys, Kemet, first of all, I don't believe in insulting people's religions like that. You know what I mean? We shouldn't do it, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us not to do it. Don't even ridicule false gods, because then they will ridicule Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you'll be to blame. But even that aside, I mean, the guy is so bigoted. He sounds like Borat for a start, yeah? You can't work out what he's saying, but when you do, all he does is just add your baboon worshippers. And for me, that's pure racism. I think Gary called him out with his microphone, and he went off. But Muslim brothers and sisters, if you're in the park, challenge these people, man, seriously, because they're giving our religion a bad name and they're making us all look retarded.
Yep, that's right. You black kafirs. I was like, wow, calling the Christian lady black kafir. Myself, black kafir. The other Christian man, black kafir. I'm like, yeah, continue, my G, continue. I love it. I absolutely love it, because one of the best things is the whole world gets to see the type of people they are. Okay. And it's about time. We need Muslims themselves to actually come out and speak out on these individuals. Come out and actually condemn these individuals themselves and say, I'm far removed from these individuals. These individuals shouldn't be at Speaker's Corner. They're giving, my religion, if I'm a Muslim, a very bad name. Sit down. Yeah, Gabs, what are you saying, King?
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, on that subject as well. I remember as well, man. I remember that day as well. We tried to talk to Omar when he was having another outburst, saying the same things about baboon. Remember that day at Speakers, I tried to speak to him and say, bro, like, don't worry, just relax. I tried to break it down to him to make him understand, because I was saying to him, listen, I'm trying to help you, because what you're doing really is you're making a fool of yourself, in front of like thousands of people that watch Speaker's Corner. And you know what I mean? Is that how you want people to see you? Like, you might have family members, that family members in their local area that they're friends and that might watch Speaker's Corner and say, listen, we seen your uncle or your granddad acting a fool. Do you know what I mean? So I always tell him, like brother, just relax, chill out, you know what I mean? And if all the stuff that you're screaming and saying out, like, you can do it in a peaceful way. You don't need to come with all this hatred and be shouting out the baboons and doing all this crazy stuff, because it's just making you look silly. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that brother, man. I know sooner or later, man, you'll slowly get the message, man, because He's a grown man.
Definitely,
You know?
definitely.
So
I want to put it out there. He's a Wahhabi as well. He's not Sunni. So on behalf of the Sunnis, and probably I speak for Reza as well, the Shias, bro, we apologize that people think that this guy's, he's a Muslim. Yeah, I ain't gonna say he's not Muslim, but I'm saying he's one warped. Within the Muslim community, you get chavs. Yeah, so you get chavs in every community. He's an Egyptian chav, bro. And the thing is, I don't want to go too hard for him in case he has a heart attack. Well, I don't know if he might be faking that as well, as Gary said. Do you know what I mean? He's probably not working. So, just I'm going in on him, but I'm just so upset that the way that he's portraying our religion. I mean, he was on Rob's channel before. He did a 45-minute rant about nothing, absolute rubbish. And so these are the sort of people that are twisting the brain of Zachariah, like Gary said. He was bang on because he's telling Zachariah, this is what Islam is, brother, pure hatred. All he speaks is hatred. And that's not the way of Islam for me, bro. And that's not the way of Islam for most people, normal people who can think rationally. So if any of them, my black brothers or anyone like that, were offended, or my Christian brothers, as a Muslim, I can sincerely apologize for idiots like that.
Definitely. And I got somebody here, Shola Ebofin says, thank goodness I know the difference between Wahhabis and proper Muslims. All right. So just putting that out there. Just to say things.
Respect, Shola.
Respect. All right.
Kalam, I was from the mention side. I want to get into side, man. Basically, another thing I wanted to mention here is it's still kind of like based on the show we did last night on Black Panther. My main my overall what's the word? My overall, can I say? The main thing that I get from the Black Panther movie, which I want to obviously hope to spread to the youth and stuff like that and everyone out there, is to show definitely why it's key now for us, especially as especially young Black melanated people, to start looking into their culture. Do you know what I mean? Start looking into their culture and their heritage and their history, because that scene in the museum with Killmonger, that struck a chord in me. That shows that we're still, some of our youth are still far away from that. We don't really know too much about our culture, because even me, I know for a fact that people watching that scene, young Black melanated, if they looked at those masks, they wouldn't even know where they would have come from. Like I would, even me myself, even I wouldn't have known. I was looking at the masks. Some of them I knew, but some of the other artifacts I had no clue. And there's a lot of artifacts that we have, especially in the British Museum and other little smaller museums in the country. I think we actually need to start getting the youth involved. You got Terry that does the museum tours. We need to start like bringing these tours back again. Take a trip down to the museum. Showing the youth their culture and heritage, and start this teaching and gain this knowledge back again. Do you know what I mean? And hopefully that would spur that inner fire, that inner drive, to make change. Because that thing will kind of help. Maybe that will help bring a stop to the knife crime that we're going to talk about, and all the other violence that we see out here, and start slowly to bring the family, because it's the lack of education. The lack of education, lack of respect, which you saw as well in the Black Panther, and a lack of leadership. So these things are very, very important, especially in our community. So I think that should be the next step that we start driving to. Hopefully getting some museum trips and bringing up some artifacts on the shows and stuff, and start naming some stuff. You know what I mean?
Ooh, yeah, that would be powerful still. That would be real powerful. Yeah, I'm feeling that. And let's quickly read out some of these questions as well. So we've got a question here from Kiss Spence. The connection between African spirituality and Kemet. That's the topic that we should be discussing in the near future. Farouk says, do a show in the spirit of Fela Kuti, challenge all outside of Africa's spirituality, story, or beliefs. Another one here, Kiss as well. If there was no religion on this earth, how do you think the world would be? So powerful questions and topics to be raised, maybe today in the show or later on. Let me quickly invite Zariab on to have his say as well.
Peace. I think building off of what Gabs was saying, it's also a case of a lack of money. If people have been programmed and conditioned that that they need money, and obviously you need credits or money to kind of operate in this world, then obviously that's what's at the center of the violence and the madness that's happening up and down the country, and all sections of society are involved, in the sense of like all races are involved. You see, it's not just Afro-Caribbeans, it's Asians, also it's white people, even from England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. You see what I'm saying? So really, it's a case of conditioning that we're going through. So the conditioning has put us in a position where we feel like anything goes for the cash, or anything goes for the money, and as such, you see the craziest amount of madness going on in the name of chasing that. I think it's very interesting what Judge of Souls has to say on the topic, that when he was coming up, he saw it as normal to go into jail. Like, he thought it was a part and parcel of his experience as a black boy. Do you see what I'm saying? So that conditioning is real, and it's only when you're able to break out of it. So like Harrison was saying, people who have been through it, who can turn around and show the way for the youth to come through and show them that there's a different way of doing it. And to touch on what Ruslan, I believe Ruslan was talking about.
Yes,
I'd rather kind of open up the conversation a bit, to be honest, on the notion of this plurality. I think it will be interesting to explore the number of Jerusalem citizens who were involved in the exile of Babylonia after the destruction of the city by the Babylonians in 586 BCE. I think if you understand that most of the population was removed, right? Well, I mean, there's obviously two opinions over that. Most of them were removed, or they weren't. If we explore the angle that majority of people were left where they are, then that opens up possibilities in regards to the archaeological record. But I think building off of that, the Babylonian Empire was taken over by the Persians in 539 BCE. So during that 5th century BCE, there was transfers of population in the opposite direction than those taken by the exiles, right? So it went from Mesopotamia to Judah, which was now at that point in time known in the Persian satrapy of Yehud. I think it's also interesting that I'm going to read now from Robert Crotty's book, Peter the Rock. However, Yehud shows an increase of new occupied settlements in the form of unwalled villages around this time. This is the 5th century BCE. This archaeological data points to new settlers, not of the same stock as the earlier exiles who had moved west. Most of these new villages had not been inhabited during the time of the monarchy, and a quarter of them had never been occupied at all previously. This means a new population was being resettled. The colonialists would have been transported specifically to promote the economic and political purposes of the Persians in Yehud. They would also have been settled into collectives, which obviously was convenient units for Persian taxation. All this was standard practice at the time. The new social groupings in Yehud in around 400 BCE could well have given rise to the idea of the 12 tribes of Israel, formed not therefore in the Iron Age, sometimes after 1200 BCE, but in the Persian period in the 6th and 5th century BCE. The new immigrant population had not descended from Jacob, also known as Israel, but from the new Persian arrangements for settling and controlling Yehud. Now, moving a bit forward and dealing with the angle of plurality, right? Within the city of Jerusalem, repaired and restored for their use, the newcomers must have established the cult of a new high god, Yahweh. There is an important distinction to be made here. Previously, there would have been several cults in both the north and south dedicated to a fertility and war god of the same name, Yahweh. City cults, dynastic cults, and popular cults. See, this earlier religion of Yahweh, which can be reconstructed from archaeological remains, appears as a normal development from Canaanite religion. Yahweh was another form of the Canaanite god El, all right? And it's interesting, Kalam, you've got that suffix on your name. So that is the angle of, that's the sort of commonly transferred or translated as gods with a plural or S at the end of it. Now, you can kind of argue the point that it was meant this way or that way, but let's just continue. This El had a consort, Asherah. So historical Israel can verify that there would have been a number of other cults not dedicated to Yahweh. For example, the worship of El himself, or Baal, or Hadad. So I think that you have to kind of explore the historical context or the historical kind of timeline in order to understand why or when this came up.
All right, let me just stop you there real quickly. Let me stop you there. 1 second. Yo, family, if you lot are tuned in right now, I beg you hit the like button or something. Let us know that you're actually enjoying the conversation so far. You're in tune with us, and you really love the fact that we're just dropping various different, information. So, without much further ado, actually, let me just quickly invite everybody else who's actually jumped onto the panel, or make it known that everybody else is on the panel is with us right now. We've got Khonsu Shesmu Amun, my fellow Team Osiris brother, Team Osiris on the horizon. Oh man, salute to you, King.
Shout out, bro. Shout out.
Jeez. Ooh, hold on. What's that artwork in the back though?
I like to collect a few things.
Jeez. Okay. Say nothing. I love that. Absolutely love that. We've also got FJ. FJ.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, King.
Awesome.
Cool. We've got FJ in the building. Who else we got here? We've got my brother Buddha. Buddha, what are you saying, King?
Yo, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is my first time on a hangout, so you're gonna have to bear with me, gentlemen. I'm just trying to figure it out. In fact, first time I'm downloading the app.
No problem, man. Whenever you're ready to speak, just give me a little signal, and I'll get you on here. We've also got my brother Alvin as well in the building. So peace to you, Alvin.
Peace, Kalam.
Jeez. All right. So we're having a nice little open discussion going on. Alvin is my Hebrew brother, so he's all the way over in America, Chicago, City, right?
Yep, me and Khonsu. Yeah, forgive Khonsu with all the wizardy Merlin stuff he got in the back of his room, Yeah.
West Africa, baby. West Africa, baby.
It's West African. I ain't from the land of Canaan. All right, cool. So yeah, back to it. Brother Ziriab, would you like to either post a comment or question real quickly? I know you was wrapping up.
Well, I mean, I was just exploring the context, just scratching the surface. But basically, I'm building the premise that the Jerusalem temple was rebuilt by the command of the Persians in around 515 BCE, and it was constructed hastily. And then I just wanted to touch upon this plurality aspect. So why is it, some people will be asking, why is it something traditionally monotheistic, or what is known as a monotheistic religion? Why is there even any semblance of plurality? And in touching upon that, in kind of building upon that, I wanted to talk about the new society that was made of mixed population. It was in a state of confusion. And to continue reading, just like 2 minutes. Persian political rule.
Hold on. I can't even get you to read for 2 minutes. I need it to be like a sharp, like just get it flowing a little bit. Okay. So pause right there. Let me ask the question to everybody. Okay. Actually, let me go to Khonsu first. Okay. Why is there plurality in the monad itself?
Well, I need to try to try to understand that the best I can. I don't quite understand the context of the situation. When you say the monarch, could you be more specific or more?
So, for example, in the Hebraic culture, I believe, if I'm getting Ziriab's point correctly, in the Hebraic culture, there seemed to be a plurality of deities and not just one single god.
No, that's not my point. That's the point that ex-Muslim was trying to allude to. Ruslan was trying to allude to earlier, and I'm trying to give some context. I mean, he played a 5-minute long talk about, you know what I'm saying?
So what are you saying then?
Zidab, could you disambiguate, please? Could you kind of...
Yeah, of course. So I'm just exploring the Persian kind of building of the temple, the Persian immigration, and the mixed population that was evident in Yehuda. Now, the point is that the society... the point is... Yeah, very quickly. The point is that there was 2 stratas of society. So you're going to have urban dwellers and then the rural people. So those who accept the high God Yahweh and those who follow the local cults. So Yahweh is the high God and was an unattached male with no consort and sole creator of the world, which was more similar to the gods of the East, such as Sin, that's in Acadia, or Marduk in Babylonia, or Ahura Mazda in Persia, the fertility god, which was known in the same region in earlier times. So what I'm saying is this period in time that we're exploring is the genesis, if you like to call it, of what we know today as Judaism. And I'm saying that it's heavily influenced by Persia.
Yes, most definitely. I mean, when you think of it historically, I totally agree with you. Persia vacillated the Judean culture, because if you remember, Persia overtook Judea in the form of where they lived, which was Palestine. And then the Palestinians had the vacillated encampment of usage of the Persian military. So as they wandered, quote unquote, and I use that loosely, as they wandered, as of course being called Hebrew, and finally settled in an area that they are today, they had the influence. It's funny you talk about this. We were talking about this earlier. There's a difference between inspiration and influence. I tend to believe, based on my study, that the monotheistic religions had the influence of military that put people in a sense of acceptance, not necessarily for prostration, but just mere survival. Because if the Judeans at that particular time met any resistance, they had access to the Persian military, which would give them a high level of influence to force whatever religious precepts they had on one another. Because if we look at the orthodoxy of religion, it's a spiritual base, but it did not take popularity until military influence came in place. Because you look at the Persian influence leading into the Judeo-Christian church that we call the Catholic Church, then coming into those that protested against that union, calling Protestants, that you see majority of Christians in the world today, and then your reformists to the Protestants, which would be the Islamists. So you see the political and military backdrop when these religions are being formed and promoted. So I actually agree with you. I talked about that earlier today.
Whew. All right. Let me get ex-Muslim and Proud on. I can see that you're trying to get in. Let's get it.
Ziriab, have you read the book A History of God by Karen Armstrong? To be honest, I haven't read it, but I've got every intention to, because it seems like a very interesting book about how about these sort of Yahwehs, they were called, and they lived in a monolateralist society, and they chose Yahweh to worship one of their gods, to be their main god. However, what I want to say is that I believe in what's called like God's revelation to mankind. So God had to physically tell Abraham to stop worshipping idols and tell him to worship him. So how the Old Testament present Yahweh is like, is there a God greater than Yahweh? So they don't deny the existence of other gods. I think the term is called monolateralist. I'm not sure if I've got the exact term right. You can correct me. And so Yahweh was the God they they chose to worship, and Baal and the other gods were all the deficient gods. Now, obviously, like, I'm not saying these other gods exist alongside Yahweh. However, and I don't necessarily take this view, but some Christians have said these were like demonic gods or like demons that force people to worship other apart from the one true God of Israel. So I'm open to this idea, and when you read the Old Testament, it does present a society where Yahweh was amongst a lot of other gods, and the New Old Testament discourse goes in trying to show how Yahweh is the supreme God, how there is no other God like Yahweh. And so, to be honest, I'm quite ignorant on this topic. I've only recently started studying about it, possibly in the last week. So I think it's a bit of a nice coincidence that you now bring it up. And hopefully in the next coming months, I'll do more research, and hopefully we'll have a better discussion about this specific issue, because it's very interesting as well.
All right. I would love to get Alvin on this. Alvin, please comment on this.
Yo, yeah, ex-Muslim is actually correct. The religion described in the Bible isn't really monotheism, right? It's really henotheism. And that's a set of beliefs where you only worship the chief deity. You don't worship any of the lower deities. So it acknowledged the fact that other gods exist, but you're prohibited from worshiping them. You only worship the chief deity. And you see some semblance of that, like in in Hinduism as well. Now, when it comes to the Yahweh onlyist cults during the Persian Empire, there is a political element to it, because prior to the Persian Empire, there's vague evidence of people being Yahweh onlyists, but the predominant religion was the polytheistic people dealing with Baal and Asherah and Hadad and all these guys. But because Persia, being Zoroastrians, were quote unquote monotheism, the Yahweh onlyist cult began to get more popularity, because the thing to do was to only worship one God at the time. So when we talk about Zoroastrianism and Judaism, they kind of developed more side by side than one after the other, because both start roughly around this 1000 BC date. And then by the time you get to the Persian period, that's when you see most of the Old Testament books are written. This is where we get most of the Zoroastrian texts coming from. So it's more of a brother or sibling relationship than a parent-child relationship when we're dealing with Zoroastrianism and Judaism.
All right. I'm going to
open it up. Can I come in?
Who's that? Zerab? Hold on 1 second. Let me get Ansel, because I see Ansel was showing us some medicine right there. Yo, Ansel, I beg you drop something for me, please. Hold on. How come we got over 100 people tuned in yet and less than 50 likes? Sometimes I wonder, do we waste our time here dropping some heat for you guys, or do you not really appreciate what we're doing here? I beg, family, give us some likes, give us some shares, drop your comments as well. Let us know that you're actually engaged with the information so far. All right, go ahead, Ansel.
Yeah, no, I was just noticed that he mentioned, ex-Muslim mentioned that book, A History of God, was one that I had in my collection. So I thought I'd just bring it up and put it for people to just have a look at the front page. Not the front page, the cover, sorry. That was it really. But I'm just listening, paying attention, learning. I get involved where I can.
Would you recommend a particular page?
The end. No, I'm joking. To be honest, I couldn't read it all the way through. I had to leave out of one or two bits because it's a bit heavy reading. It's written by a very smart person, but it doesn't really go with my understanding of what I consider to be factual history. She kind of limits herself a bit, but I mean, it's very well written, and it does include a hell of a lot of good information. It puts a lot of things into good context, refers to a lot of very valid contemporary philosophies at certain particular times, and it makes a lot of sense up to a point. But like I say, it's based on a particular paradigm, and as well written as it is and intelligent as she is still very limited in my understanding.
All right, thank you. All right, Ziriab, I see that you wanted to go next. After that, ex-Muslim, you be on. Go ahead.
All right, so just to kind of create a framework so people can jump on the conversation and kind of have some semblance of order, we have to distinguish between literary Israel and historical Israel. So in the literary Israel, we have the creation of the world and humanity by Yahweh, and then the sin stories. So that's Adam, Eve, Cain, and Abel, the flood generation, and the Tower of Babel. Then you have the ancestors, so that's Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebecca, Jacob, Israel, same person, and his 4 wives, from whom the 12 males who established the 12 tribes of Israel are born. Then you have Moses and the Exodus out of Egypt, where they meet the God of Israel, Yahweh, on Sinai, and then they take the land of Canaan. Then the judges rule the land. Then David becomes king and captures Jerusalem as the capital of a great kingdom. He's then succeeded by his son Solomon, who builds the first temple to Yahweh. The United Kingdom then divides into 2, Israel in the north and Judah in the south, each with a line of separate kings. Northern Israel is then destroyed. Judah in the south is destroyed together with its first temple in Jerusalem. The people of Israel then are exiled to Babylonia. The Persians allow them to return to rebuild the second temple of Yahweh. The Greeks overcome the Persians and challenge the religion of Yahweh. Then the Hasmoneans, successors of the Maccabee families, who rebelled against the Greeks, reassert possession of Jerusalem and Judah, and they cleanse the second temple. This is the Jewish story, right? This is clearly distinguished from the historical Israel, which I kind of headstrongly jumped into earlier. But I think I would open it up to, obviously, especially the Israelite on the panel. Is that correct and exact information?
Yeah, you know what? The first, I was on the phone for like the first part of it is, you were correct. I didn't hear the last part, but based off the chronology, I think you gave the standard biblical narrative, right? So yeah, I mean that would be correct, right? You said
Yeah.
You basically just went through the biblical, non-archaeological record of it all, right?
That's it. Yeah. Yeah, like I say, it's distinguished from the historical Israel, which
I mean,
is
my bad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
go ahead. Yeah. I'm saying it's really just a matter of this is what the text says, and then you have a conversation about what can we prove about what the text says. So I guess it's like those are the two conversations.
All right. Real quickly, I just want to get brother ex-Muslim back on.
So yeah, there's actually a very good video on YouTube. It's made by a Christian apologist called Inspiring Philosophy, and he goes through Karen Armstrong's book and he critiques it and he analyzes it. And what he says in that book is that there are a lot of hidden presuppositions, and obviously everyone's got a specific worldview in how they see the world. And she uses the evidence that, the Exodus never happened and things like that. However, what Inspiring Philosophy argues, he's a very good, in my opinion, he's the best YouTube apologist for Christianity out there. He's got about 50,000 subscribers. I'd recommend to everyone, if you want to learn about Christianity, go to his channel. He's got some excellent work on the reliability of New Testament, historical reliability and things like that. However, what we have to decipher, what's the historical bit in the Old Testament and what's like the made up nonsense bit of the Old Testament. And a lot of scholars today would say that Exodus is the made up nonsense. However, to understand whether the Exodus really happened is we need to put a correct date on it. And what Inspiring Philosophy has dated that Exodus happened in the year 1453 BCE in the reign of Amenhotep II. And he says there is no direct evidence for the Exodus. And really, from a historical point of view, you shouldn't expect it, because the ancient Egyptians were very well known in destroying material that were embarrassing to them. The only way we know about the defeats of some of the Egyptian pharaohs is what their enemies wrote, and not what what comes from the Egyptian archaeological record. And for example, during Amenhotep II conquest, he called for 100,000 slaves. Now, that would fit in line with the Exodus narrative, because obviously all the slaves moved out of Egypt. So all of a sudden, there's this lack of workforce there. So it makes sense that he would call for 100,000 slaves. So even though there's not direct evidence, there is evidence that the Exodus did happen according to the biblical narrative in the reign of Amenhotep II. And there's a lot of corroborating evidence that goes alongside with it. Like I say, I'm not an expert on these things. I've just barely started studying about this. So if I say something wrong, don't get on my case straight away. And I do
Sounds like confirmation bias. But can I say
take
this one?
Go on.
Oh, can I just ask you about your sources? Because I'm currently looking into that myself.
Sorry, my sources.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just for my research as well.
Right. My primary source, and like I said, I'm not claiming to be an expert on this, so if I do make a mistake, I do apologize. It comes from Inspiring Philosophy's YouTube channel, and he's made an hour and a half chat show about Karen Armstrong's book. And also, if you want to check out his Facebook, he also makes a podcast about the Exodus as well.
You say Inspiring what, sorry?
Inspiring Philosophy. Go on YouTube. He's called IP Inspiring.
Oh, thank you. Cheers.
All right. And on that note, just to put it out there, just before my audience thinks I'm actually co-signing this. Just to put it out there, no, I'm not co-signing this at all. Don't ever get it twisted. I'm not co-signing it. I'm just keeping my mouth zipped, just as a little disclaimer. So, real quickly now, I actually want to switch up the pace of the conversation. We've had maybe I don't even know how long, an hour maybe long of religious stuff. Is it possible so we can actually go into some African related talks and conversations? Okay, so if anybody's got some African related topics and conversations, please drop them right now. Okay, I'm all good for the religion, but sometimes I need to just put that down for a hot second.
Hey, the Ethiopian prime minister rather, just resigned a couple of days back still.
All right. What impact
I've
does that
got
have?
something. I've got something I've been thinking about that I think might be interesting.
Well, I just came back from watching Black Panther, so.
Yeah, I was about to say this king named T'Challa defeated this guy named Killmonger, and he seized the throne in Wakanda. That happened a couple of days ago.
Hey, Alvin, stop it. All right, answer. Go ahead, King.
Okay, yeah. What I wanted to say was that I speak to a lot of smart people that believe a lot in their Africanism, and I'm 100% with that. I understand not exactly, but I mean, I understand to a great deal what that means to them. But I sometimes wonder when, for example, we talk about deeper things, other things like evolution, and they totally agree with that. They can see the importance of Africa in the human story, history, and origin even. And then I say to them something along the lines of, I mean, it's all fair and well to trace your genealogy and lineage back to a few thousand years ago, 3,000-4,000 years ago, maybe less than that, to Africa, and consider that your kind of people, your culture, whatever. But I mean, to some extent, everybody can. I mean, we all, given that human life started in Africa, it's just a matter of time, for when we can all find our lineage back to the same place as well. So, I mean, in that sense, according to how you extrapolate that, we're all Africans in heritage. We can all take pride in that. I think this concept of it being somehow special to people because they're still black, I think is not as relevant as a lot of people make out. I've just wondered about that. I'd like to know what other people
But you
think.
know what's funny about that though, bro? You see the new article, the recently new article about the original British people being black. I was tickled by the fact that the alternative right, or like the right wing, was talking about how, say, because Prince Harry is marrying a black woman now, this media is trying to put out this. The media is trying to put out, the liberal media is trying to put out this image that, oh, we're black, and it's like, I think a lot of white people would disagree with your answer, and they'll say, no, we're distinct and we're from a different. That's not, you know what I'm saying? That's what they would say.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's cool. You could. I wasn't going to say too much, but yeah, you go ahead, bro.
Man, look, I'm glad you brought up this thing, because you'll notice that the alt-right reacted the same way that a lot of like super duper Afrocentric people reacted with the Nefertiti mask on. So I was doing some little research and I was looking at the comments, and like both of them are saying the same thing. So when the Nefertiti bust came out, a lot of the super Afrocentric people being like, hey, they're whitewashing, you know what I'm saying? To me, it didn't really look like a white woman to me. I mean, it just looked like a mixed lady. But they said, hey, they're trying to whitewash our history and all this. This is white supremacy. But then when Cheddar Man came out, I see the alt-right making the same kind of arguments like, hey, they're trying to blackwash our Britain history and stuff like that. And I think people, understandably, people are putting too much importance on physicality nowadays instead of the actual history of things, you know. Yes, there's black people in Britain thousands of years ago, and not everybody in Egypt looked like Michael Jordan, Wesley Snipes, and Grace Jones. Like, we got, it's like you have to the romanticism on both sides of the spectrum has increased over the years, especially because of the internet. You know.
Buddha, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was actually going to bring up that documentary about Cheddar Man the other day and what people thought about it. What's interesting is this. I've been blessed enough in my lifetime to travel around the world, and the influence of black people on this planet is vast. I've been to places like Costa Rica, and they've got these massive kind of like vases. They're kind of like jugs, vase type things, and you see them with the face. There's like broad nose African featured faces on these things, and they're thousands of years old. So the influence of Africa spreads all over the world. Even like we now know Britain, England, the UK was inhabited by black people thousands of years ago. I just wanted to touch on that subject, and I wonder if it spread to Pakistan and India and places like that. I know there are.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Within India that do have an African, I think they're descendants of the slave trade. I don't think there are indigenous Africans in that part of the world. What do you guys think about that?
Well, the guy that created Kung Fu was an African man. It was a Chinese man. Oh, sorry. One of the first Chinese people were black. If you look at the Khoisan people now in South Africa, you can see the resemblance of an Asiatic kind of appearance. So Asia is basically
was black?
Person that invented Kung Fu was black.
Really? Okay. As I understand it, Bodhidharma was an Indian gentleman who taught yoga to the Chinese, which then became Tai Chi. I've heard that there was a black monk who did do martial arts, but one of the first I used to do martial arts, so I know a little bit about it. One of the first recorded martial arts in history came from India. Kalari, I forget the name of it. Kalari something.
Yeah, I read it. You talking about that legendary guy from India that started the Shaolin Temple?
Yes, yeah.
It's like a legend. He was like almost like a midget dwarf kind of guy. So it was, they like draw him
He
with
was
like a
well.
bald head and a beard.
Thinking.
You know what I'm talking about?
Even Buddha was black as well.
Yeah.
There's plenty of black people in Asia that started a lot of things that
But
we see
here's
nowadays.
the thing, though. Here's the thing with that, where it gets a little tricky.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
Because here's where it gets tricky. When we say black, there's Indian people over there darker than, midnight. But when we look at them, we don't call them like quote unquote like Negroid, right? Even though they're pitch black.
That's exactly what I would say. I don't think if you look at a Sri Lankan person is very dark, but is he black? No.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. That's where it gets a little muddy like that,
By the way, to validate my argument for the guy that invented Kung Fu, his name is Bud Hid Humara. He was a Buddhist monk who lived in the 5th to 6th century, and he basically started teaching and invented Kung Fu. So just to show people.
Yeah, but in that history, it doesn't say that he's black at all.
If you look at the depictions of him from the people, he's depicted with a very melanated skin.
Well, he literally looks like one of the dwarfs off Lord of the Rings.
There's an issue with that. It's called evolution.
Well, gentlemen, I've been privileged enough to go to the Great Wall of China, and I've climbed the Great Wall of China. Within that region, in certain regions of the Great Wall, there are dark-skinned Chinese people, very dark skin.
That doesn't allude to the colloquial term called black.
Okay, yeah.
The colloquial term black, when we say a black person, number one, that's a North American construct. It's not an international.
Yes,
so it's a colloquial term. It's an adjective to describe a person. And it's based under a social political construct called the Civil Rights Movement. That's what created the term of calling each other black in the first place. Anciently, you see the color or the black color denoted as a symbol of primordial existence or birth or aboriginal or being first. But it did not ever denote a social political status of being a black person juxtaposed to a white person. That's a false dichotomy. There aren't black Chinese. That's a false. That's not.
Well, that's exactly the point I was going to make. They're dark skinned, but they're not black.
Yes.
Yeah, like y'all see my screen.
There are parts within China where there are very dark skinned people, but they're not black. They're dark skinned. But same with the gentleman that was saying that Buddha was black.
Where did they all come from?
I beg your pardon?
They migrated into Asia from Africa, right?
Where did who come from? The Chinese?
Yes.
All of Asia, all of Europe and Asia, everywhere. Where did they all come from?
They didn't.
Europe is Asia. Europe is Western Asia.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's not my point. My point is, they all came from Africa.
They did indeed. You're correct. If you go back far back.
But that doesn't mean that we don't change as a species going into subspecies. It's just like Northern Americans. Yes, we're African.
That's right.
I'm an African American, but my ancestry is African. However, my descendancy is tied into America by way of Nova Scotia, Sierra Leone, France, the Amero, Libyan people. I'm not just a black person just because I come from Africa. We have admixture and we have technology that gives us better understanding of this as opposed to just depending on ancient documents. It may be nostalgic to look in the past, and just because it's an old document, that does not mean that technology doesn't answer some of the questions that ancient scientists couldn't. We have to give credence to that.
Yeah, because that term black, you know what? A lot of times now with geneticists, they don't use black or white. They just use terms like ancestry. Hey, your marker goes back to here. We don't really care what you looked like during the time your marker was over here. We just know your marker is over here. Like, that's how they doing it now. They're doing it more so like that as opposed to like outwardly appearance. They more so digging more so into the blood.
May I say something? In regard to this, I think the brother asked the question: do we have any proof of any sort of migration into India and Pakistan? Of course, Pakistan wasn't around, but obviously India, Hindustan was. I've been reading a book by Dr. Wesley Mohammed called Black Arabia. It's a brilliant book, and he talks about the first migration from Africa into the Asia, and he talks about and he gives examples, and within the book there's pictures of people like I think the Dravidian people, who are very, very ancient people, very dark people, and their DNA goes back to Africa. For me, that's quite interesting because we also have the story of Zulkarnain in the Quran, and Zulkarnain is described as a prophet who had two horns. And often, recently, Muslims have said, "Oh, it was Alexander
It's
the
not
Great."
Alexander the Fake.
It's not.
not
It's definitely,
Alexander the
definitely
Fake.
not Alexander the Great, because according to Imam Ali, alayhi salam, I was listening to a talk by Professor Dr. Ware, and he said that Imam Ali thought it was an ancient African prophet. An ancient African prophet. So if we think about there was more than one migration,
Just
and
like Luqman.
exactly. So we know that there's an ancient migration that's gone from Africa into Asia, and you can see there's certain parts of India now that, you guys mentioned in Sri Lanka and stuff. But remember, this has evolved over thousands and thousands and thousands of years.
I could tell you really where the bulk of it came from. People always
Please.
talk about the transatlantic slave trade, but the trans-Indian Ocean slave trade was going on before, during, and after the transatlantic slave trade. You know, with the Arab slave trade from India to places like Kenya and Ethiopia. That's why, like, when you go to Kenya now, I used to live over there. There's a whole bunch of Indians living over there. You know, they call them Wahindis or whatever, but there's so many Indians over there because it's like they was trading back and forth from India as slaves. So a lot of Africans ended up in India because of that.
Yeah, but it's not just that though,
I'd
brother.
like to-
It's not just that because I have to come in here and I have to.
Yeah, it's not
because
just
this,
that, but that,
no,
that
because
was,
I have to like this is my people's them. You see the East African region, Ethiopia, Eritrea, yeah. Going back to the Aksumite times, we have coins, Aksumite coins, dating from 320 AD, in the reign of King Osanas, which were found in India. So this
Right.
trade between the Indian subcontinent and East Africa and Northeast Africa, you know what I'm saying? I don't care what the political states are called today,
right.
were they were inextricably tied for a very long time. So to bring in the framework of like obviously it's what I'm saying, it's preceded. You know, if we're finding coins from the Aksumite Empire in India,
Right.
then obviously they've been trading on a different level to what we may assume. And I think on that note, like this is the point that people try and make it out as though the only Africans that are in India came as slaves, and that's just not fact. It's not factual at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't say only. I think it was a factor, but like you said, the trade. Matter of fact, it's to the point to where sometimes, especially with the women, it's kind of sometimes hard to distinguish an Ethiopian woman from an Indian woman. Sometimes.
Well, let me say this too. I want to add this anecdote with Wesley Muhammad. Team Osiris, we did an extensive expose with Wesley Muhammad, whose book is highly Afrocentric, but it's not supported by proper lingua franca, geographical distribution, and anthropology. These are some of the problems that Wesley Muhammad has been challenged with and cannot answer, because we make the gross assumption, especially in Northeast Africa, that Africans look a certain way. You have a Cushitic, you have Bantu, you have liturgic that make the lingua franca of those Africans in those regions. Well, the phenotypes are extremely vast and extremely multicultural. So a Black Africa is a huge misrepresentation of what an African looks like. And because we tend to take a darker hue and say, well, you know, they're African, they're Black people, that is absolutely false. There is no corroborating information that supports that. Because they're dark-skinned, the Dravidians, they have a totally different history than just seeing that those were Black Indians. That is a huge, huge, huge misrepresentation of a group of people that deserve to be called who they are and not being put in a class system of being called black.
And you don't need to do them the
unfounded.
disservice like that, because much of the African population in India came as traders. And I think one of the most famous of the merchants was, I don't know if Cyrison knows this guy, but is or may have like researched him or come across him in his research. We called Baba Gor. Baba Gor, he was an adept in the Sufi tradition, and Baba Gor literally means father of deep thought. So I think it has to be stated that Africans in India have been around since at least the 3rd, 4th centuries, and yeah, predominantly as traders.
And then you got them people.
Yeah, I'm not arguing the presence of Africans. I'm just disambiguating what an African is and what an African looks like, what their culture is. It's 13 million square miles, over 6,000 dialects, and over 12,000 languages that those dialects are attached to. So you just can't say that a typical African is this. Africa produced all forms of humanity, all phenotypes, and all cultures. So we just cannot we had to make sure that we're socially correct, because it can become very ethnocentric in describing Africa.
And you know what? It's a real huge problem, because look, Consul, there's a girl I know. She's born in Algeria. Like she's literally African, right? But obviously she looks kind of like Puerto Rican, like kind of like she light skin, long hair kind of thing, right? So she put up on her Facebook, "I'm proud to be African," and all of these black purity people is like, "You're not African," because I'm like, wait a minute, you guys were born over here. She's actually born in Algeria, in Africa, but you're saying she's not African because she doesn't look like Grace Jones. Like, that is a problem. It's like they're limiting this thing.
All right, family, we got about 7 more minutes left of the show. Okay, I'm being kind by saying 7 minutes. Really, it's about 4 minutes. So let me just see. Gabs, let me get you in, man. Gabs, I haven't heard your voice all night. What are you saying, King?
Yo, what's popping? Nah, man, I've just been here listening, man. You know, man, it's been I thought it's been a good topic, you know, the brothers, you know, chopping it up. So I've just been listening, you know, hearing everybody's point of view. And to be fair, I'm surprised you're trying to chop it down, brother. I wanted it to continue still. I wanted it to continue, but boy.
We've been on here for over 2 hours, it's saying. So, you know, I'm trying to keep the shows on the 2 hours. You know, and I'll tell you what I miss you. I miss you, Team Osiris. I miss you, my fellow Team Osiris brothers like Konsu, Shesmo, and Munya, just breaking down the information, man. Oh, man. Oh, I need to get my brother Konsu back on again. Let me just quickly see. Let me see how I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to mix it up by going to Ziriab. Go ahead, King.
Just to continue on in the vein of Africans in the Indian subcontinent, one of the most famous or one of the most preeminent empires ruled by Africans in India prior to the colonial era was in the Deccan region. So that's modern day Ahmednagar, Bijapur, and Golconda, which houses the cities of Hyderabad, Bijapur, Satara, Pune. So it's all in the south of the Indian subcontinent, and there's some really famous rulers, and I'd love to do a show on this, and I'll show pictures and primary sources of rulers before we had this construct, the European construct of black, white, and the caste system, and this, when you look into the history and you see these people ruling and no one batting an eyelid, being prime ministers, being rulers, that's how you know then we've been sold a lie. So a couple of famous rulers in the Deccan region are fellas by the name of Ikhlas Khan and most famously Malik Ambar, who was instrumental in the development of rocket technology on the battlefield. Obviously, it already existed in China and whatnot, but he used it famously against his enemies, what's their names now? Anyway, well, the Mughals, I think it was the Mughals, and then they used it against the British, and then the British were able to use rockets and develop it further on. But also, moreover than that, man like Malik Ambar was savvy with the water pipes and so he was a builder. He reminds me of the classic archetype of Imhotep, in the sense that he was building, as many are building still in the Deccan region, Aurangabad, which is coincidentally his burial place. But yeah, for anyone who's interested, look up the personage of Malik Ambar. Obviously, this is much later on. This is like much later on than what we talked about as the origin of Africans in India being in the 3rd century. This is later on in the 14th century or so. But yeah, so whilst Columbus was stumbling on his way to the Caribbean, you had Africans ruling in India and huge swathes of India.
All right. Let me know. You lot just give me a signal if you'd like to talk next, okay? But just a quick reminder, family, next week, Tuesday, we're going to have a discussion. Okay, we're going to have a discussion on knife crime, okay? Knife crime. So if you would love to be on the panel for that conversation, please join us on Tuesday, 9:30-ish. We're definitely going to get it in. We're going to invite, various people to come on to give their, experience on knife crime. We're going to see if we can mix it up quite some. But I'm tired, I'm actually tired, to be honest with you. I'm real tired, but let's see if we can keep it rolling for a hot minute. Buddha, what are you thinking?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think that's more my forte. Well, I wouldn't say it's my forte, but I've got more knowledge about knife crime and stuff like that. The religious aspect of things, you guys become like scholars. I don't really pay much mind, to be honest with you. But interesting conversations nevertheless.
Definitely. All right. So you saying, family, anything else before we go? Go ahead.
I've got a quick question though still. Right. So, when I was younger, right, I was in foster care. And the gentleman that was the foster carer and his wife, he'd never let me take a photograph of him. Okay, because he was a Muslim guy. He goes, no photographs, no good. All right, fair enough. But then if that be the case, how is it, what has changed since that people are on Instagram, smoking shisha, all of that kind of bare taking photographs? What has changed since then and now? If someone could answer that, I'd be very grateful.
Do you want a Muslim to answer it?
Yes,
He didn't want you to catch his soul.
Nah, I just want to.
He didn't say that in so many words, but I understand that's what he meant. But
Do you know what it is? It's still Muslims that believe that, bro. You're gonna get a big spectrum, but you get people with different opinions. Some are more conservative than others. Some are a bit too conservative and don't even realize the society that they're living in. But I think most people now have realized, there's certain things that it's very hard to get by in life. So, for example, when coffee came out, a lot of Muslims, the fatwa was right, it's haram. It's haram. You can't have coffee. It's intoxicant, and that was the thing, And then suddenly it became okay. It's permissible, and now Muslims are one of the biggest coffee drinkers in the world. Do you know what I mean? So time changed. People change.
Sorry, my question is this: Who says that's allowed, that's not allowed? Who says you can't take a photograph? Who says you can take a photograph?
Exactly, there isn't. It's just people's interpretations of scripture, and people come with different interpretations of scripture. Different sects come with.
There's no central body like that.
There's no central body, right?
I would humbly suggest therein lies the problem with religions nowadays. Instead of following the religion as it was supposed to be followed, people interpret and make up their own wild, extravagant interpretations, and it brings problems all over the place. As an older guy, right? Fair enough. I never see none of this madness. I never see
Yeah.
things like I look at Kalam's videos in Hyde Park. I'm frightened to go down there because I know what my mouth is like, and I'll start letting off. And you know what? Tan like a friggin' a priest compared to me. So I just watch it and try and come on there and try and understand certain things. But therein lies the
It's a
problem.
fair point. No, it's a very, very fair point that you've just made. But often it depends on how people come to this. People have certain issues and they use religion. So if I'm an angry young man, I'm just to say, I find religion, I'm going to find interpretation within that book or within the scripture, within the hadith, within the Quran to justify my outlook on life. And that's the problem. So it says a lot about the person for me when people approach books like that. And often people don't want to study. They want easy options. They just want to read the bits that suit them. They don't want to look at other alternative views. I get gunned for coming on this show, believe it or not. So many Muslims, you're with the kafir, bro. What kind of, is this a sellout thing? For me, I like to learn. So all the brothers on the panel today, especially the American brothers, I sit there and I listen, and then I form my own opinions from what I've heard. I'll do the research. I won't just make a willy-nilly decision. But if they've got the evidence, I'm convinced by it. I'm allowed. I've got a brain. I'm allowed to engage that brain. But there's other people, religion, that don't want you to think for yourself. And I think that's the problem.
You see, even that's an oxymoron in certain ways because back in the day, certain man would drive bus for the kafir to get the kafir's money. You understand? So they work in a hospital treating kafirs.
Right.
You understand? So don't make no sense for somebody to turn around and say, why would you hang with a kafir? Why would you do this? That don't make no sense at all. Right? Because in the double standard, I know this word gets brought about quite a bit, but it is indeed a double standard. But let me ask you this. Do you think it's about time, not Islam, the religion, but the practice of Islam should be kind of like I don't know, looked at? Not, I wouldn't say reformed, but looked at and standardized.
I think it's that the problem is we've had too much reform within Islam. We've got people, the reform that happened about 200-300 years ago from the Wahhabis, and then subsequently the offshoots of them. This is where we've got most of the problems, where people are just making stuff up or just reading bits that, like I said, suit them. They're taking a very literal approach to scripture. They're causing divisions between us and them. They need, it's a power thing. And we've had that before, not just the Wahhabis, we've had other people like that in history and through different religions and stuff like that. But as civil society, what we need to do, we as Muslims have to deal with fundamental questions. And we can't just dismiss it and say, oh, this is coming from the West, therefore we're going to reject it. I believe the reform or the traditional way that we change things, it has to be, Muslims have to look within their own sort of history, and we've got lots of history, dissenting views, strong opinions, and we have to bring that forth. Next week, I'm going to be doing a show on apostasy, which I'm going to show some of the traditional opinions on apostasy and how the Muslim world have got it horribly wrong right now on apostates, and how lots of people are living double lives where they don't really believe in Islam, but they're just, by name, they're Muslim, but they're living double lives. And that sort of hypocrisy is disliked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'm going to be showing that, and I'm going to be showing ways on how we can change that, hopefully.
You know what I'd like to see? One of the first things I'd like to see is a license issued to people giving dawah or preaching.
I'm with you there, brother.
Because
I'm with you there.
Most guys, these young guys who come out and start talking nonsense, right?
Big time.
If you had a child, if you had children, if you had a wife, you wouldn't be preaching the madness you're preaching.
100%.
About kufr this and extremism this and
100%.
Let me tell you something. I know friends of mine who are Palestinians. Yeah.
Yes.
Everyone they've got a reason to go and fight and cause mayhem. But guess what? They're humble. They've seen enough war and damage in their lifetime to last a million lifetimes. They don't want to see that no more. They just want a peaceful life. Go and work, get their money, look after their children. You understand?
100%. Well, we need to eradicate Thug Islam, bro. That's what we need to stop. Thug Islam.
These Palestinians have got an actual reason to go and do it. Yet they've seen it so much they don't want to do it. Then you got these keyboard warriors who watch
Right.
two YouTube videos and think, you know what, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to start preaching this and preaching that. You know what, better you go see one of your sheikhs or whatever, get a license, go have some children, get to the age of 35, mature a bit, and then come back and say you want to be a preacher. Other than that, hold your corner and be humble.
That's right.
I like it.
All right. Let me just close down the show and we'll continue this discussion off air. It's a real good discussion, to be honest with you. But let's close it down before it goes over to like 3 hours long. So, family, it's been an absolutely wonderful show having all of our Talk with the Titans family coming on and sharing their knowledge and wisdom with us. I would love to have more shows like this where I can sit back and just really relax and enjoy myself and soak in the wisdom. Hopefully you guys have been soaking in the wisdom as well. If you have, just let me know in the comment section. At least leave me an, oh man, jeez. It's been excellent. So family, I'm going to sign out now and I will see you guys on the other side. Peace, love, and I'm out.